What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium's Flashback Reviews, where I take movies from the past, break them down, and tell you what I think about them. If you like what you see, of course, hit the subscribe button. Join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell, top to find what's coming next, and comment below on any video you watch, including this one. So 10 years ago this week, a movie came out that was so complex, so original, audacious, and inspiring that it set the world a storm. It made $890 million worldwide, almost $300 million in the state, garnered a Best Picture nomination, and once again proved that this director knows what the hell he's doing. Whether his message is always clear or not, that is a different story. But of course, this director is Christopher Nolan, very famous director, and the movie, of course, is Inception, very famous movie. The fact that it's 10 years old is crazy because I actually remember seeing this trailer in the theater. It actually premiered with Iron Man and Iron Man 2 because Iron Man 2 was released in the night this trailer released. And when we first saw this trailer, we had no idea what was going, but we were excited for it. Absolutely, we were excited for it. This is a movie that, because it's Christopher Nolan, was greenlit almost automatically from Warner Brothers. It was a movie that they basically said, here's $300 million, $250 million, whatever you want, make a movie because you make us a lot of money. So Christopher Nolan went out and made a movie about dreams and realities and dream warriors, and he created something truly unique. I will give him that. Now, this movie, of course, is a movie that was in between Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, which is what Christopher Nolan did, actually, between the Batman movies. He basically directed a movie, I think, between Batman and Dark Knight was with Prestige, but this has been between Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. And I think he did it because it gave him the ability to kind of go away from the Batman franchise, to clean his slate, to give him something original to do. And there's no one like Christopher Nolan. I mean, think about what Christopher Nolan is known for doing. Memento, The Prestige, Insomnia, the upcoming Tenet. I mean, his movies are like insanely weird and ridiculous. Like, who thinks of these things? Only Christopher Nolan thinks of these things. But this movie, like anything that comes out with originality, is only hampered by the fact that Christopher Nolan couldn't come up with something even crazier. He's a guy that his thought and logic is on a completely different level than anybody else in the entire world. I mean, Steven Spielberg probably comes as close to this, but Christopher Nolan is doing things that doesn't happen or hasn't happened in film since the days of like Orson Welles and stuff like that. It's just incredible to see him work. The problem with the Christopher Nolan films is they're always coming off kind of dour, kind of sad and depressing. There's always a lot of seriousness going on. There's a lot of things involving time, which is a lot of his movies deal with. So sometimes the originality, which is there, kind of doesn't seem to have any fun involved with it. I think this movie is his most fun, his most unique film. Maybe outside what he's doing with Tenet, from what I've seen, that is as wholly unique as this movie. But sometimes it just feels like he just is too self-serious that it can cause hamperness and problems. But that doesn't take away from what Christopher Nolan is known for doing, which is creating great films. And this film is a film that has a lot of moving parts, a lot of theories, a lot of ideas about what is actually happening in this movie. I don't even begin to think about the complexities of what people have put into this movie itself, the theories, the papers. I mean, there is papers upon papers just on the little spin top at the very end of the movie. There are theories and papers just on like what happens in like the third level of this movie with the third level of the dream sequence. It's insane that a movie can create that. There are not many movies out there that have that much work put into it. I mean, Interstellar, on the other hand, had Kip Thorne involved with it. So you can imagine who Christopher Nolan went to make this movie. The dream logic scientists or doctors, the people that are involved with this kind of stuff. It's just, when you look at the aspects of this movie, it's just like, it's almost like looking out in space. It's too hard to comprehend. It really is. But I'll give you my opinion on why I think this movie is the way it is. But we'll go into the basics of this movie. This movie is about dream warriors. This is a movie about implanting an idea into someone's brain. This is a movie about going into that brain and trying to survive the possibility of never coming back. It's a movie about just people that are very good at their job and the complexities behind what Inception entails. Because like I said, when we first heard about this movie, we were like, what the heck is Inception? What does that even mean? Are they incepting people? And in essence, they incept the Robert Fisher character and implant the little seed in his brain to kind of break up his company. But this movie pretty much revolves around a character named Cobb, who of course was played by the fantastic Leonardo DiCaprio. But Cobb is a guy who's guilt-ridden. He's a guy with a very haunted past. He's a guy that you are very kind of curious about, you're wondering what his logic and reasoning behind everything he's doing, whether it's true or not, is some of the most complex character writing you'll see in a movie, because his character has to deal with so much emotion, with the fact that his wife, who's played by Marion Cotillard, dies and she commits suicide, the fact of living with the idea that he almost kind of created that problem, the fact that she shows up and every time they're going into the minds of people to extract stuff, and the fact that he has to conform this and inform this and create this group of people to do this as Inception, and the history behind it, and everything he has to deal with, the people chasing after him, the fact that he's like suicidal, the fact that people have to worry about him, the fact that we don't know if it's a real thing or he's dreaming or it's real. It makes it for such a complex nature of writing a character and having to deal with him. He's our surrogate into this world. He's our surrogate to everything that is happening. And it is emotionally impactful in what Leonardo DiCaprio is doing. You see like his strain in his eyes, the tiredness. You see like he has like beard, shadowing a beard and stuff like that. You never know what his logic and thinking is. You never know what he's thinking and what he's trying to put out. When you see him trying to work with people, you never know if these people are trying to help him and save him. He's going, there's just so much into his character that it is a character that can be dissected for hours upon hours, just looking at each individual scene in this movie to kind of piece together. I don't have hours upon hours in this review, but you know what I mean? You could take that character and just break him down and still not have a full complete idea of what his character is truly in this movie for. Is he being rescued? Is he not being rescued? Is he trying to save people? What is he doing? And that's what makes this character so unique, and what makes it so well thought out and so well presented with Leonardo DiCaprio himself. So Cobb as a character is fantastic. He has to hire a bunch of people, like I said, to do this Inception, and he is just magnetic on the screen. He does everything to 100% or more, and it's fantastic. So that's Leonardo DiCaprio's Cobb. And in order for this character to work, you have to have a support structure. You have to have, especially in this movie, he has to have that support structure. And his right-hand man is played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Now, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, as everyone knows, kind of had a small career leading into Third Rock from the Sun. He kind of just was slowly revolving into an actor to the point where he had some amazingly large parts in a lot of movies. He's worked in a few Christopher Nolan films. He's worked in a lot of big-budget productions. He had for a while a very A-list style career going, and then it's just kind of turned into more of a he picks and chooses what he wants. But he plays Arthur, and Arthur to me, and I'll explain to why I think this is Arthur is almost like his conscious, his structure into trying to keep him whole. I think, and I have reasons to why he's even in this movie, but he's a character that is there to protect Cobb in a lot of ways, to keep him from committing things that he shouldn't be doing, like suicide and stuff like that. He's a character that is almost like a pill to keep him whole, to keep him from falling apart. And he has it doesn't have the most well-written character, but he has one of the most important roles in the movie, and it's still a fantastically written and produced character by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And to see how he acts and see how he works with, Ellen Page's character when they do the Rose and Step thing, and just like how he has to perform in this movie is a truly fun experience to watch. And that's why I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt in this movie. I think he's fantastic. I think he does a really nice job, and he really gives some substance to keeping Cobb in place as this movie plays along. But he realizes that Cobb is haunted by Ma, who, like I said, is played by Marion Cotillard, and she has an important role in this movie as Cobb's inner demons, as his trying to deal with the substance of what he has created, the monster he created, dealing with the fact that, she is going to die, that she's not with their kids. I think Marion Cotillard is the depths of heart for, the Cobb character. So once again, it's another theory I have on why she's even in this movie. And then we get Ellen Page, who plays Ariande, and Ariande is going to be the architect of this movie. She is the one that she takes over for Lukas Haas's character, because Lukas Haas fails in trying to basically get Saito to give information to another company. There's a big thing at the beginning of this movie where they use the Ken Watanabe Saito character to basically extract information, or try to extract information, but he knows what's going on and everything fails, and Lukas Haas is taken away. Lukas Haas is a very small role in this movie, but Saito hires Cobb and them to do the Inception. And that's where Ellen Page's Arianda character comes in, and she is almost like the logical aspect of Cobb's character. And you're going to see where I'm going with this in a second, but she is always questioning everything in this movie. She's always questioning the bits and pieces. The reason she's an architect is she's very good at creating puzzles and creating mazes and creating the ability for the subject, which is the Cillian Murphy character, to basically not realize that he is in a fictional dreamlike state. And that is a really interesting character, because as she's questioning everything, she has to question how this is going to work. She's using her logical mind and reasoning to try and cope with the fact that she needs to do this and this and this. She's almost like the Christopher Nolan of this movie, where she is slowly having to structure this world. And maybe she was put into this movie to be that structural endpoint to kind of keep Cobb going, which, like I said, you're going to see where I'm going with this as I'm telling you. And she has to develop the ideas and logical reasonings behind these levels that they end up going to until the fourth level, which is kind of a different thing. But I love her character in this movie because, once again, like I said with the Christopher Nolan part, she is the structural import and the structural input to this movie, and the way she has to like develop everything. We see her and Cobb in the dreamlike world where she uses like windows and mirrors to like create different things. She's like moving the big buildings on top of each other, which is a really cool sequence. And it's a really kind of interesting take on her on a character, and kind of an important character to the important story of the Inception and logical reasoning. So I think it's a very interesting character. Once again, I think it's the director writing himself into the movie, kind of explaining the whole scenario and stuff like that. So, and then we have Tom Hardy, who plays Eames, and we all love Tom Hardy. He actually got an Oscar nomination for The Revenant, which he actually started in with Leonardo DiCaprio. I think he should have won that one, but hey, it is what it is. He plays Eames, and Eames is a forger, and the forger is basically the guy who is going to excel the seed that gets implanted in the Fisher's mind. He is an important character for the fact that he has to basically position himself in the look like his Fisher's godfather, Browning. And Browning, of course, is played by Tom Berenger. He's given like a second life in this movie, which is cool. And Eames is basically trying to convince him he's the guy that can create like weapons and stuff like that. He is important in the aspect of just the technical aspects of what they need to do and how they need to do it. And it's early stages Tom Hardy, so he's not the most important character in the movie. He's actually not in it very much. He's like halfway through the movie, he finally shows up. It's still a fun character. He's still an enjoyable character. He's Tom Hardy, so he's very sarcastic and very much of an asshole. But I love him. I think he's fun. He does a really nice job in the movie. So that's Tom Hardy's Eames. Not really much to talk about, but he is a fun character in the movie. And then we have Dileep, who plays Yusuf. And Yusuf's one of those characters that is brought in to be the chemist. He's the guy that's going to give them the chemical to keep them under. There's some exposition that happens where they talk about this chemical in general. And it's used to keep them under for a certain amount of time. And I'll talk about the time in a few minutes. But he's just there to get them through the first stages of the first level. And he's the one that is going to initiate the initial last kick where the van falls into the water, and that's his basically character role in this movie. He's just there to kind of be exposition, kind of have a character movement forward and type of that thing. So I still think he's fun in the movie. He still has some enjoyable lines, but he's not the most important character in the movie. So. And then we have Ken Watanabe as Saito, and Saito is the money man. He's the guy that is the initial starting point for this whole entire Inception plot point. He's the one that they're extracting on in the beginning, who actually hires this group to basically do what they do because they're so good at what they do. He makes the mistake of being the tourist in this movie, where he jumps in with them in the first level and gets shot. The sad part about it is he eventually dies in the dream sequence, and because this chemical is so strong, if they die in the dream, they go to limbo and they can't wake up from the dream. So he basically dies, and Cobb has to go after him. But whenever you have Ken Watanabe in your movie, it automatically makes it a more enjoyable movie. He was great in Last Samurai, where he got an Oscar nomination. He's fun in Godzilla, except for the last Godzilla movie wasn't that fun in. I enjoy him. I enjoy what he's doing here, and he's a fun character. So. And of course, we get to kind of the single important character in the movie outside of Cobb, and that, of course, is Cillian Murphy's Robert Fisher. He's the son of Maurice Fisher, who is, of course, played by the late Pete Postlewaite, who actually died right after this movie. It was a good movie to go out on, but, unfortunately, he did pass away. And, of course, Robert Fisher is one of those people really conflicted about his life. He grew up with a very wealthy family, an empire, actually. He's going to take over this empire after his father dies, at least according to the Will and Testament. But this movie hinges on the fact that they need him to basically break up the company so Saito can take over the energy, whatever. It's really not that important, honestly, the plot point of it. But in essence, why I think this character is important, because when I go into why I think this movie is what it is, there's a lot of baggage running along Robert Fisher's life. His godfather, like I said, is played by Tom Berenger, who plays Browning, and there's a lot of emotional distress about the father who doesn't really care for his son that much. It's the honest fact. It's just the way it is in this movie. And it's him having to accept the fact that he will never be his father. He never should be his father. And he has to live with that idea. He has to pursue his own goals and his own means. And whether that means taking care of the company or breaking it up or whatever he needs to do, that's the whole reason behind why Saito is trying to do what he does to break up the company. But Fisher needs to understand that he needs to move past that. He needs to become his own man and forgive his father for who he was, forgive himself basically. And the reason I say that is Cobb is always under distress about his wife, about being keeping her in his mind under lock and key, because he's so afraid of what he has done to her that he can't forgive himself. He can't forgive the fact that she was her own person. And I think Fisher is his copy. I think it's his mirror image in a lot of ways, and it plays out really interestingly about how they use him to go to these different levels. But when you get to the very bottom level, when you get to the bottom level, and of course, they have to go rescue Fisher because Marion Cotillard character kills him in the third level. When they go down there, he finally is able to forgive her, and that brings him into the Fisher character, who's finally able to forgive his father, finally able to move past the situation. So they're moving past the situation at the exact same time. Fisher sees the pinwheel. Fisher sees the last Will and Testament. Fisher decides, talking to the Tom Berenger / Eames character, that it's time for him to do his own thing. And that is a really kind of interesting take on something I never even thought about, is the fact that he is doing that. And it's a really powerful thing to watch Fisher's character go through these emotions. At first, you think Fisher's just kind of a guy who doesn't want to accept his place in life, that he's spoiled and, just not a very good person. But really, there's an underlying darkness, an underlying sadness to his character. So I do think he's almost like a mirror image of Cobb and what Cobb's having to deal with, and that's why I'm going to get to what I'm talking about, is you see where this is going. So, and the last major character in this movie, of course, is Michael Caine as Miles. Miles is, of course, Cobb's father, and he has a really interesting role in this movie, on the fact that he, once again, kind of theorizes my idea of this movie, but he is there to support Cobb. He's the one that gives him the Ellen Page Arianda character, getting him into the movie. And he's just a fun character. I mean, it's Michael Caine. Michael Caine's in almost every Christopher Nolan movie at this point, and I love Michael Caine. I love watching him. And he's just there like an emotional support character. He ends up at the end of the movie taking Cobb to see his children. So it's not really a big part, but it's a fun part. And it actually has a little bit of credence to my theory about this movie. So when you look at this movie as a whole, when you look at what Christopher Nolan and Willie Pfister have done with the logic of this movie, with the nature of this movie, it's so complex. It really is. You look at the level of design quality, you look at the level of writing, you look at how he mapped everything, Christopher Nolan, how he mapped everything out. And we can just look at the level sequence. We can look at the kick sequence. We can look at any part of this movie, when they're running through Mumbai and he's running through the alleys, and the alleys seem to get smaller. Or, when they're in the different levels, the fact that I think that Christopher Nolan is the Ellen Page character in this movie is for the simple fact of when you design movies, when you design looks and things in a movie, you have to have these pieces connect together, and you have to find a way to be creative about it. And you have to, if you're going this complex, you have to have a simple nature of doing that. And the fact that like each character in this movie has a motive to each level, the fact that Joseph Gordon-Levitt stays in the second level to do that whole crazy flying sequence or floating sequence, to like the level 3, which is like just a big action piece sequence, to level 4, which is just like the inner minds of the Cobb character. To watch each piece like play off one another is so well constructed, so well designed, so well put together that it's almost scary that this is even a well-rounded, well-understandable movie. I get it. There are people that still don't understand this movie at all. I have friends who do not like this movie. It's fine. But when you really sit down and you really think about like how structurally sound this movie is, with like there are some issues in this movie where there are things that are said, there are things that aren't really shown. And that's probably intentional that make it really confusing. But just a level of detail, just a level of watching each set piece, how it connects with the other set piece. And it really is connected and held with glue through the kick. And when I say the kick is like the moment when they wake each other up. The fact that you have the one sequence with the Yusuf character, you have the other sequence with the Joseph Gordon-Levitt Arthur character, you have the other sequence with Eames, and then you have the other sequence with, of course, Ariande and, of course, Cobb. The kick is important because you're watching time as it happens. And what I mean by that is Christopher Nolan's obsessed with time. It's in every one of his movies. And as each level goes down, and this is where I think he got a lot of help, as we know, when you sleep, and it's explained in this movie, time works differently when you sleep. Your brain is more active. Your brain goes a million miles more a minute. So you could sleep a half hour and feel like you've like been awake for 5 hours. It's just crazy to think about. There was a couple of days ago where I went to sleep. I was only asleep for like 15 minutes. I had a dream about an apocalypse or something like that, a meteor shower or whatever it was. And it felt like it was like a 3-hour long dream, but it was only 15 minutes. And showing that logical reasoning, logical steps is fascinating, because when you go to like the first level, it's 1 week. When you go to the second level, it's like 2 months. The third level is like a year. And then the last level is like eternity. And they're only on a 10-hour flight, so that level of him writing that in there, giving that explanation, is how well Christopher Nolan put into his work into this movie. You can really feel the nature of how he's trying to present everything, and it's really kind of cool and fascinating to watch. And then each sequence has this really cool action set piece. You know, my favorite set piece is everybody's favorite set piece, where Joseph Gordon-Levitt's fighting one of the Robert Fisher characters, defense mechanisms, where they're like floating through this hallway because, the Yusuf character has thrown the van off the roof or off the bridge to start the kick, and everything in the hotel starts floating. So they're like bouncing off the walls, fighting each other. And it's so inventive. Like, for instance, like Arthur starts walking, but he's walking on each level or each part of the wall, and they fight each other kind of like Neo and Agent Smith. And it's just a really cool sequence. I really love the snow stuff because of how meticulous it was in designing that level, designing that big structure, that fortress, to kind of get him through, like the level of detail shown in that. Just everything, all the detail, all the production design is top notch in this movie. And then the kick happens where you see how slowly everything's running. You see how slowly the first level, you see how slowly the second level falls, and then the third level, and then eventually the fourth level. And like, to plan that out, to have everything work in tandem to a singular point is intense. Like, that whole sequence is as intense as it can get because of how they have to work together. As the van's falling slowly, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, when he hears the music, has to hit the explosion at the right time with the elevator shaft. And then, of course, Eames has to hit the explosion at the right time with the, to go with the kick. Of course, Arianda and Cobb have to fall off the hotel at the right point. And to watch all these pieces start falling together is so meticulously crafted and so well put together that it's amazing how Christopher Nolan just didn't start going insane, because because he's like, I'm going to put this piece here, I'm going to put this piece here, I'm going to put this here, here. And I'm like, I'm sure his production crew and everybody he works with is used to this by now, but it's just like, how do you craft something like that? That whole sequence is just so meticulously like thought out, and that's the genius of what Christopher Nolan is doing. And it's played out through this entire movie. Each piece is perfectly placed, each piece is logically placed, and each piece has a purpose that will get you from set piece to set piece to set piece. And each time there's exposition, each time the exposition is shown, each time there's, logical rhymes of reasoning, it is a almost perfectly encapsulated piece of art. It really is. It's like a modern Picasso or something like that, and how well it's designed and placed on the screen. It's pretty insane if you think about it. And of course we have a Hans Zimmer score, which has been copied to death. That is almost in every movie it's ever been put out. It's insane how good his score is. There's actually a score, I think it's the one from Mombasa, the Mombasa scene, the theme song to that. You could use that as a song to play and work out on, because it's so like fast paced and beats like it's a well written score, a very good score from Hans Zimmer, who has worked with Christopher Nolan many times in the past and of course in the future. So it's a great score as well. Now, if you haven't gathered what my theory about this movie is, yes, I believe it's a dream sequence. And the reason for that is there's one line that Michael Caine's Miles character gives as Cobb goes to visit him in the school. And the line is, "Please come home." Now, if you watch Michael Caine's expression as Cobb says what he says throughout that entire dialogue sequence, there is something hauntedly sad about his character look and feel. Like he's almost ready to cry. If you've seen Total Recall in the sequence where that guy is trying to get him to come back to the Arnold Schwarzenegger character back to reality, it's very similar, but more complex and more thought out. The reason I think it's a dream is I think every character knows Cobb in real life, is friends with Cobb in real life. But Cobb is one of those characters that has put himself into a position where he, after the death of his wife, and they know about the death of his wife, has gone back into the dream state, and he's now dealing with the guilt-ridden aspects of his life. That's where the Cillian Murphy character comes into effect. I think he isn't able to deal with it. I think it haunts him to the fact that he implanted, since he's done the Inception before, that he implanted this thing into her mind, which caused her to commit suicide. As we're seeing through this movie, the kids never age. The fact that he's on the other side of the window, I don't know how big this hotel room is, but he's on the other side of the window. So everything he's playing out in this logical reasoning is him trying to piece back together his guilt-ridden conscience. And I think this Inception is trying to get him to basically come back to reality, with the whole idea of what it is. I think Saito is, like I said, almost like a push forward, the ability to him to push forward himself. I think the character of Arthur, his Cobb's conscious, with the fact that he is always trying to give him reason and logic and trying to keep him, in check and so on and so forth. I think the Ellen Page character is his logic and reasoning for everything, questioning everything and so on and so forth. So he's always questioning everything he's done. Why is this? Why is this that? And you have the Eames character, who is like the mask and the fakeness to this world. I think, of course, the Yusuf character is the fact that he will never leave this place, the chemical nature of everything. He's so committed to everything that, these characters, like I said, they know him, so he's able to, there's always talk about like memories and stuff like that in this movie, and about using those memories, how it could affect things. And, when he went back and they built this entire cityscape, him and Ma, it really feels like these characters are trying to convince him to come back to reality. Now, when it comes to the ending of this movie, I still don't think he ever came back, and I think the reason for that is I think he was able to successfully put back his determination to guilt rid himself, but I think he will never come back because he just doesn't want to deal with the realities of everything that's happened. I think, the fact that he can go and see his kids, I think the fact that this top is still spinning, even though a little falters and stuff like that, which can make, you could go either way with that. But I think he just seems happy, and I think he's able to deal with that reality that he is in this place. I think the fact that, Joseph Gordon-Levitt says something about his loaded die, about don't touch it because it could affect the problem and the things in the memory. I think he has the top of Ma, which is the same type of thing where he has touched her, her spinny top, so he uses it, it affects his memory and stuff like that. So I do think he went back to his children, just not in the reality that we all know and love right now. I think he never wanted to come back. I think he was just too guilt-ridden, and this is his way is coping. It's his coping mechanism, and he'll die happy where he's at. But it's an interesting way to try to bring him back, to try to get him back to reality, and whether it succeeded or failed based on your theory, because the theory that it was all real is a possibility. There are pieces and crumbs laid throughout this entire movie that leads it to be real. I also have this interesting theory that the whole movie itself up to the plane is a complete dream sequence, and they're trying to get him back into reality, that the whole Inception thing was for him to kind of come back, and that everything from the plane onwards was real at the very end of this movie. But that's a different kind of take. And then, of course, there's theories about this being about filmmakers and stuff like that. I mean, it's the theories and logical reasons behind this movie, the ideas and determinations of what you think could be, it's infinite. It could be anything. And that's what Christopher Nolan's whole entire intentions were, is to give you a movie that presented the theories that you could come up with your own ideas. He purposely left it open-ended for that reason. And it's going to be interesting to see when Tenet comes out, if that's what he did, if he's going to do the same thing, because there's ideas and logic behind Tenet being in the same universe as Inception. So we'll see what happens with that. But it's a movie that just really works on all levels. It's a movie that does so much with its material. It's a movie that's really high concept, really high budgeted, and it really still feels like an original, independent movie that just isn't seen at all, ever. It really is. So Inception is quite a piece of work, and it's a fact that it's 10 years old, pretty crazy to think about. So anyways, happy 10th anniversary, Inception. And there you go. That is my take on Inception. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this movie. Do you like it? Do you not like it? But I'm really interested to know your theory on the whole idea of what this movie is doing. Do you think it's real? Do you think it's a dream? Let me know in the comments below. Go crazy. Tell me what you think. I'm really interested to read it. So anyways, if you like this video, sweet, hit the like button. If you dislike it, hey, it is what it is. But also hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, as well as the notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. Anyways, I'll see you on the next video, which could be real or a dream. Who knows? Peace out.
What's up, guys? Thank you so much for checking out Movie Emporium. I really appreciate it. If you want to, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification button and the bell at the top. Find out what's coming next for Movie Emporium. Also, check out these two videos. They're amazing. I think they're awesome. I think you'll enjoy them too. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.